A YouTube star makes Hasan Piker crash out. The View's latest race baiting involves toddlers, and unfortunately, conspiracy theories are gaining traction. All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, our show where we take on the craziest stories from across the internet and the media, all from an independent political perspective. Guys, up first, we're going to tackle some fascinating drama in the world of online figures and media personalities featuring two well-known and at times controversial characters. On one hand, you have we've talked about him a lot on the show in the past, the leftist streamer and star and influencer Hasan Piker, who I've been very critical for because of his comments supporting political violence or inciting political violence, his defenses of designated terror groups, and many other unhinged statements. But he is, of course, something of a left-of-center media darling. They really can't get enough of him, particularly because they find him to be attractive, many of them. So he's become quite the figure that people have lifted up. And he is popular, right? He does get a lot of views and traction on his content. And then there's someone else who's a little bit more of a niche figure, but quite popular in her own right as well. The YouTube star ShoeOnHead, who I think her politics originate somewhere more in the kind of Bernie Sanders mold, but she is iconoclastic. She really only dips her head in her toe in occasionally into political discourse. She's not super present in the commentary space, but she did recently make a video where one of the things she talks about is like gamer culture. And she did one where she talked about a kind of weird saga involving a video game where you play as this male character who like saves a girl or something, and then a bunch of gamers were talking about how they wanted to have kids because of the game, and a lot of people made fun of the gamers, including Hasan Piker. And anyway, it's not really normally the kind of thing I would pay significant attention to, but then I saw Hasan Piker's crash out after ShoeOnHead briefly mentioned him in the video. It was really only a minute or two in her actual video that discussed Hasan Piker's take on it, where he kind of made fun of gamers. That's what got me interested in this, because holy crap, he lost his mind over it. We're going to go over it all. First, here's the original clip from ShoeOnHead's YouTube video that has over 1 million views, where she plays Hasan's clip and then pushes back on him. Let's watch.
What's really interesting about this is all of these unfuckable losers in the gaming sphere always talk about like starting families and stuff. And I don't understand, like, why this has become a thing that they care about. Like, if you're a gamer, you should care about things that you actually experience. You should care about things you actually enjoy, right? If you're a lonely gamer who has never been around a woman and will never have sex with a woman, why do you care? Like, why do you care about having children or, like, riding for having children? Like, it's just not something that you're going to experience ever for your life, for the rest of your life, right? This is something that I never understand.
Wow, maybe there's a reason people are yearning to start a family and can't afford to have one and can't seem to find a partner. They feel alienated from their work and atomized from their community. If only there was a political commentator around to speak about all this. Oh well, guess not.
Okay, I'll pause on this because what she's doing here is kind of clever, though I don't actually agree with the underlying critique. So what she's saying is that Hasan is making fun of these disaffected gamers who like maybe aren't having success with women or can't afford to buy homes or can't afford to build a family. And he's just coming off as so like nasty and condescending towards them and disinterested in their plight. And I certainly agree with that critique. And then what she's doing is she's kind of actually connecting it to the idea that Hasan Piker claims to be this big Marxist socialist, and he is, just not for himself and his mansions and all that stuff. But anyway, you'd think that according to that worldview, you'd have more sympathy for these isolated males because, like Shue hints at, under Marxist theory, you know, they have been atomized by capitalism and disconnected from the fruits of their labor and this other stuff. And I actually and she's suggesting, you know, maybe capitalism is why they can't afford these things. And while I don't agree with any of those underlying ideas, she is correct in pointing out that Hasan does. And so if he was actually thinking this through according to his own worldview, he would have some sympathy for these gamers that he's crapping on. But she's just pointing out, and maybe she agrees with him, I don't know, but she's just pointing out that he's not even practicing what he preaches. He's just crapping on these guys to be edgy or cool or make fun of incels or what have you. And that's kind of it. She briefly talks about him a little more here, but then she just moved on. Like, the whole video was not about Hasan, or it wasn't a Hasan hate fest or anything like that. He really crashed out over it. We'll take a look at more of this here. Gas prices are insanely high right now, but Trump and Republicans have an idea they think could help. They want to temporarily suspend the federal gas tax, which ultimately could lower the price of gas for consumers by like 10 to 15 cents per gallon. But there's a lot of opposition to this idea, and a lot of people think it would just really be a band-aid on a bullet hole. So will it happen? Will it not? Well, according to our channel partners at Kalshi, people think that there is a 32% chance that the federal gas tax will be suspended before January 1st, 2027, and there is an 18% chance that it will happen before July 1st of 2026. Anyway, Kalshi is the first CFTC-regulated exchange dedicated to predicting the outcome of future events. If you want to check out Kalshi today, you can use my link to the description or the pinned comment, or use promo code BRADP when you sign up to get $20 free when you trade $20 today.
Second of all, what is this nihilistic horseshit? You never aspire for anything, never aim for greatness and meaning. And I love how he's like, unfuckable losers. Like, okay, congrats on the sex, bro. Check out this sex haver over here. I'm sure all those unfuckable losers could easily go to foreign brothels and pay for sex like you, Hasan. Also, 35? No kids? Sitting in his ugly $600 Gucci sweater. I swear I've never seen this guy in a fucking normal t-shirt, sitting on his high horse, looking down at people for wanting something more out of life. I don't understand how someone could be so mentally that this is their reaction to such like a simple, wholesome concept.
So listen, I actually do, while I don't think I agree with her on very much, I do see kind of the aesthetic and charm that she has, and why her videos are popular. And yeah, she points out some solid critiques of Hasan in this brief snippet before going on to discuss this broader issue in the gaming community or what have you. But what's so strange about Hasan is that typically you don't rise to the level of popularity that he has risen to without having somewhat thick skin, right? Because so many people are going to say things, and especially when you say such insane crap like what he says, you're going to get lots of critiques and lots of hate. But there's something about certain critiques, because obviously, you know, people are critiquing him every single day, and most of the time he seems unaffected. But once in a while, a critique will just seem to really get under his skin. And my God, he lost it over this relatively mild pushback from ShoeOnHead, briefly mentioned as one small part of her longer video, when somebody brought it to his attention. We're going to take a look at that now. Let's get into it and watch Hasan's meltdown.
Bro, you were on the last ShoeOnHead video. I will literally shoot myself with a gun if you bring that up in here, okay? Why? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to go out, purchase a shotgun, shoot myself in the face, not die in the process, but at least lose significant chunks of my fucking brain so I can operate at the same substandard, suboptimal IQ level that ShoeOnHead and her dumb audience operates in, so I can do a regular response to that? Is that what you want me to do? Do you want me to lose chunks of my brain? Do you want me to John Fetterman myself so I can understand the compelling argument that ShoeOnHead makes, one that should have been left in the dustbin of history all the way back in 2016? Ooh, look at me, I'm an emo girl and I change my politics all the fucking time. Ooh, look at me as an emo girl. I look like that one meme on the internet, okay? 4chan guys who are now 38 years old want to to me. Why would you openly admit that you listen to ShoeOnHead in 2026, man? What the is wrong with you?
Wow. That was extremely unhinged. And notice how he just goes on a long rant, doesn't address any of her points, insults her millions of viewers, and then suggests that she's changed her politics a lot, which I don't know. I can't say I'm a huge consumer of her content, but I've been aware of her for a while, and I'm not really sure that's true. But regardless, he then has the temerity, the audacity to suggest that she's only popular because men want to, you know what, to her or find her attractive or what have you. And I think there's like, I don't know if that's the only reason she's popular, but it certainly helps. And I think anybody who does what we do, there is obviously a algorithmic or audience bias toward people who are not tough to look at. You know, I don't think you have to be a 10, but people don't tend to want to watch somebody who's really visually unappealing. But what makes that so funny and what makes that so deeply ironic and hypocritical is that a huge part of the audience that Hasan has built up is because people find him hot, because people find him attractive. That is the main focus of every single profile and article written about this dude. And every time people glowingly simp for him, it has to do with his muscles and how hot he is and whatever. I don't even necessarily begrudge him. I think he's a fine enough looking person. I don't really maybe fully understand the hype, but whatever. But that then to dismiss ShoeOnHead as only popular because people find her attractive is so hypocritical and lacks any semblance of self-awareness. And it's just funny too, because it's like, in another context, by his progressive ilk, dismissing a woman's opinions and critiques and commentary as, well, she's just a sex object would not be considered very progressive after all. But these folks have so many double standards that they really actually just don't have standards at all. And the crash out continued. This was only a small snippet of it. And then he also started rage posting about this on X. And what was so fascinating about that is he made a pretty startling admission. Here he wrote on X, "I have yet to watch any of her content and am perfectly content. Seems she'd be a Stalinist if the algorithm swung in that direction. These people are content farmers with no clear political vision who want to make disillusioned people feel involved in politics through culture war drama slop." Now listen, it seems somewhat true that ShoeOnHead talks a lot about culture and those kinds of issues. I'm not sure that's inherently wrong or evil or makes her somehow terrible, but for all that we have heard from Hasan about how unserious she is and how she has nothing to offer and all this dismissal, for him to then admit he has never watched any of her content is a startling admission, because only one of two things can be true. And I'll identify both of them, then I'll give you my theory. Number one, he has actually never watched any of her videos, despite her being a very, very popular YouTuber and operating in kind of similar spaces to him. I find that to be unlikely. But two, and so yet he is dismissing her in such totality and such fierceness without ever actually having consumed her content, which would seem to be extremely ignorant and unfair. Like if I was to say this author is effing trash and then tell you I've never read a page of any of their books, we would all agree that that's like extremely unreasonable and unfair and uncharitable. Or two, he has watched many of her videos, so he knows what she's all about and he doesn't like her, but then he doesn't want to give her the credit or satisfaction of admitting that he has watched her content, so he is just sociopathically straight up lying to his audience and saying, I've never watched her content. I think it's that part. And I would actually say that part is probably worse, because there really is just a brazen deceitfulness and dishonesty to it that's genuinely concerning. I don't know. I found the whole meltdown to be remarkable on a number of levels. And I will just say this, that I think progressives who have rallied around this man, despite his insane baggage and really unstable personality and all of this, the things surrounding him, as if he's some kind of hero or champion who can help them build a coalition or a movement, y'all really might want to rethink that one. I do not see that as a smart move whatsoever. But then again, I am personally someone who wants to see the far left democratic socialist vision for America that he represents. No way. I want to see that never get anywhere close to power in any sort of meaningful sense. So as far as I'm concerned, keep up the great work, Hasan. And unlike him, I say that as somebody gladly willing to admit that I've watched many, many hours of his content, and I don't feel the need to either give an uninformed opinion about it or blatantly lie to you and tell you I've never watched Hasan. Okay, guys, up next, we're going to check in with the leading visionaries of our time. Really, they are some of the most stunningly brilliant and intelligent people anywhere in our media. They're where you go when you just need a common sense, rational perspective on the days. Sorry, I can't. I tried to say that with a straight face, and I simply cannot. We're going to check in with the lovely, lovely, and brilliant ladies over on The View, which I have to point out every time is a news program under ABC's news division, which makes it all the more worse and ridiculous, the things they say and do and the misinformation and alarmism that they spread. So the latest viral clips from this godforsaken show come in the context of policies that you would think even more liberal or Democratic leaning Americans would be not particularly upset with from the Trump administration, surrounding the creation of Trump accounts where like a small amount of money is set aside for kids when they're born and invested, and then you can add to it kind of like 529 style government accounts for kids. They're called Trump accounts because of course I have to name it after him because they're narcissistic as all heck. But regardless, seems like a decent enough idea that's not particularly upsetting or controversial. Same with most people support the Trump administration, the steps they're taking to expand access to fertility treatments as well. Particularly most liberals and Democrats support that. It's actually some right-wing conservatives who don't. Anyway, though, they decided to make it over on The View, all of this, to crash out over it and make it some sort of like race-baiting hoax nonsense. Like, don't take my word for it. Listen to this.
Go ahead. I'll just quickly say, because I think everyone's making great points. I think two things can be true at the same time. I think that the intent can be questioned behind these new Trump policies. There was no acknowledgement of the black maternal mortality crisis because black women die at a much higher rate than any other demographic. Than any other demographic. And he doesn't seem to be, this administration is not concerned about that. I think it's true that he wants Trump babies, which implies he wants American-born white children.
He wants
that may be
toddler white nationalists.
That may be part of the intent.
I'm sorry. What is a toddler white nationalist? And why are they scandalized by the idea that the American president pushing fertility plans, trying to increase the birth rate, wants American-born babies? Yeah, he's not the president of the entire globe, and he's trying to, I don't really think it'll make much of a difference, but he's trying to improve the U.S. birth rate. So yes, he wants American-born babies. And no, they don't have to be white. These plans, whether it's the Trump accounts or the fertility treatments, are open to everybody, not just white people. And frankly, according to your own worldview, frankly, it's probably minority people who need the assistance more than affluent white people, right? So it's like, they just have to do this. They have to make everything a ridiculous stretch to the point of absurdity. White nationalist toddlers. That's not a thing. That's not a concept that exists. And to say Trump only wants white babies or what have you, it's just like, The messed up part about this is the Trump administration and Republicans writ large, there's plenty to actually criticize when it comes to race and racism and things they've said and done. But like race-blind programs meant to help kids and help families access fertility, there's certainly legitimate policy debates to be had about all of these programs. But to make every single thing some kind of a race-baiting, victim complex, hysterical accusation of bigotry just makes you come off as so unreasonable. And then, if they actually do something that is genuinely racist or messed up, most normal Americans are tuned out to that. They are desensitized to those accusations and those concerns, unfortunately, because obviously where that actually exists is extremely messed up and really harmful. But because y'all have cried wolf so many times for so long, yeah, people are sick of it. They're sick of listening to this. They're sick of pretending that everything is some kind of racial grievance, victimization issue, and you guys just sound unhinged. And I say that as somebody who is not a Trump supporter and is very critical of a lot of stuff this administration is doing. You're still never going to catch me fixing my mouth to claim that offering all babies of all races some kind of government savings account or investment account is somehow a secret effort to only promote white babies. And also it's bad that we're only giving it to Americans in America from the American government, even though it's funded by American oh my God. Yeah, what is it supposed to be? We are the world. Kumbaya. Here, every baby across the entire planet gets a free Trump account paid for by the US taxpayer. That would be insane. But apparently they're going to take shots at him for only wanting American-born babies. What? I can't believe these women are real. And also, I'm not going to play this clip, but they also this week talked about celebrities need to stop, because I think it was Billy Bob Thornton or somebody like that came out and said, I don't speak up too much about politics because, like, who am I to really say I don't know a ton about it? I don't want to put out strong opinions out there or tell people what to think or believe. They should listen to someone else. And the ladies of The View attacked him as like, oh, so you're ignorant? Oh, you don't read the paper? Oh, your silence is complicity. One of them even actually said that cringe-worthy phrase, because the concept of humility of any kind, but especially intellectual humility, and not flapping your gums hysterically about things you don't understand and have no real grasp of is so foreign to them that they actually think a celebrity who demonstrates even an ounce of that is somehow like a traitor to the country and failing to uphold their civic duty, when in fact I think they're doing a service to the country by not weighing in on things they don't understand and being divisive and sparking discord. But obviously that's a foreign concept to Sunny and Joy and Whoopi and the other rotating cabal over at The View. Here's another clip where even when they tried to give him some credit, Whoopi had to shut it down and explain why he gets no credit. And she said something wildly unreasonable that I want to unpack. Listen to this.
But as someone who also struggled with infertility, Manny and I went through our entire life savings to have our children. There was no insurance. We were fortunate enough to have a home that his parents gave us a down payment for, and we borrowed against our entire home and lost and our entire savings to have our two beautiful children. And so the fact that this is something like this is available, where you do have help with IVF, that you do have help with the drugs, the IVF drugs, I think is a win. There's so much to criticize Donald Trump for, especially his racism and his xenophobia and his misogyny. Yes. But these particular things where you have an account, a Trump account, where your children can have $200,000 when they're 18 years old, and the help with infertility, which is also a crisis in this country, I think you call a thing, and I think these are good policies.
So I almost want to give her credit for this, because in this one brief, less than 60-second moment, Sunny Hostin illustrated some ability to give Trump credit for something she otherwise agrees with, but she had to bring in racism, sexism, xenophobia. I'm surprised she didn't drop transphobia and homophobia in there somehow. But it's like, not every sentence has to involve some denunciation of the president, even when you do agree with the thing he's doing. No one's asking you to put on a MAGA hat or to forego your other criticisms, but you could just discuss the topic at hand without bringing up all these unrelated things that you think he's so terrible for. Regardless of whether I agree or not, I just find that cringe. But at least I'll give Sunny some credit for trying to be rational and give some credit to Trump for these policies she agrees with. But her co-host couldn't let that stand. They had to come in, at least one of them did, and make some assertions about why, no, Trump's not getting any credit, even for this thing we say we support, but he's doing it and it has his name on it, so it's bad. And until he does all this unreasonable stuff that we demand, he's not getting any credit around here, because of course they did. Here is Whoopi Goldberg. Take it away, Queen.
Policies.
I think the infertility is great, and I believe it when I see people actually getting to do it. But I will not give him this until he takes care of the kids from birth
That's right.
to 18 or to 20.
I'm with you.
I'm sorry. That's weird. We'll be right back.
Sorry. What? I won't give him credit until he takes care of the kids till from 0 to 18 or even 20. Are you good? Did you skip your meds this morning with Miss Whoopi? Or are you actually that delusional? Because actually, you know what? This might be a good opportunity to lay out some genuine ideological differences. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't actually believe that it is the federal government's job to take care of your children their entire lives until they're 20. I actually think it's people's, because obviously that means that you're taxing your neighbors and forcing everyone else to do it. I actually think it's your job to take care of your children as the default expectation and norm and provide a good life for them, and that government policy should come in to ensure that that is possible and viable for people, and to have some safety nets for people who are unable to do so for whatever reason, for disabilities or tragedies that happen or these kinds of things. But that the default expectation is not that daddy government pays for everything you need in life till you're 20. And the idea that you, as a president, don't get any credit for any policy if it's able to increase fertility or the birth rate or anything, which again, I think these will only make very marginal differences. And there are much bigger systemic issues behind the decline in the birth rate. But even if, this made some small uptick that you could see, she's like, you don't get any credit for that unless you also provide from everything the child needs till they're 20. No. What? One thing does not follow from the other, actually. If the goal is to help people have more kids, then the measure of whether it works is whether people are able to have more kids. Not you only get credit for it if you also enact full communist socialism, everything from the state till they're 30, or whatever Whoopi is babbling about. And again, it's just so unreasonable. And listen, at this point, these women are lolcows to me. Right? I don't take them seriously. I just kind of point and laugh at the things they say and do. But I actually am genuinely concerned about the millions of women and men. I'm sure there's some Delulu men out there as well, but I do think it's probably majority women out there who set their TVs to ABC every day at 1 p.m. or whenever it airs, I don't even know, to watch The View and are nodding along like seals to this. Those people, they should probably have their driver's licenses canceled. I'm not comfortable sharing the road with an unironic fan of The View. We should probably do a welfare check on these people and make sure that they are, not in need of commitment or what's the thing that Britney Spears had? A conservatorship. I'm kidding with this, obviously, but I don't understand these people, and I never will. That's just my take on it, though. Y'all will have to let me know. Any of y'all willing to defend The View in the comments, please do. I would love to see what you can come up with. One final thing I want to touch on today's podcast is some disturbing news, but not particularly surprising. Here's the headline from Mediaite. A quarter of Americans and 34% of Democrats believe the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting was staged. More from the article here. A significant percentage of Americans believe the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner was staged. A recent survey conducted by YouGov and NewsGuard asked Americans about the 3 attempts on Trump's life: the Butler, Pennsylvania shooting, the thwarted attempt at the president's golf course in West Palm Beach, and the shooting at the Washington Hilton just weeks earlier. According to the survey, just 38% of respondents believed all 3 assassination attempts were legitimate. Additionally, 54% of respondents said all 3 were staged or that they weren't sure. Goodness gracious. And I'll put the graphs up on screen here as well, but you can see that for each event, a majority of Americans either believe it was staged or were unsure. And the belief that it was staged by party identification shows that Democrats are much more likely to believe this, and then Republicans are the least likely group of people. But even there, 13%, 7%, and 7% respectively is not 0, and that's astonishing. This is gravely concerning to me, like not a laughing matter at all, because one of the single most animating features and kind of themes of my commentary and coverage has been how harmful and disturbing and toxic and destructive the rise in political violence, and more importantly, the rise in support for political violence is, and how I genuinely believe that's taking our country into a very, very dark place that none of us should want to go. But the problem here is that there is no evidence any of these three events are staged, right? Especially the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That's like literally, there's footage. There's hundreds of journalists there. This person, the Occam's razor explanation, the most likely explanation is that a deranged liberal in a country where millions of liberals will admit to pollsters they want Trump to be killed, and there's memes constantly about somebody needs to do it, showed up with a gun to try to shoot the president, and there's literally zero evidence any of it was staged. Yeah, the starting assumption of a rational citizen in the public should be to assume that these events, particularly like Butler, you think they staged a shooting to nick his ear and kill someone in the background. Like the depths of conspiracy involved there that you would have to believe to get there. And at the fact that such a huge percent believe all three were staged. So you don't even believe any of them are real. We are losing touch of any semblance. And it's not just this. This is just one example. But the big problem here is that we are losing touch with any semblance of a shared reality, a shared news cycle. And when we can't even agree on the basic facts of what's happening in this country, how can we then ever hope to come to any sort of consensus or agreement or respect of different opinions? Like, we are literally arguing with a wall because the version of reality that your politically active Democrat is living in and the version of reality that your politically active average Republican are living in, they both increasingly, it's not even a Venn diagram where there's some overlap. It's just two circles. And we can't continue like that. There's no way to get anything done. There's no way to coexist peacefully and side by side if we can't even agree on what is and is not happening. And then when it comes to an issue like political violence or assassination culture and assassination attempts, there is no chance of addressing an issue when you can't even acknowledge that it's happening or real. And obviously, this is an example where Democrats are conspiracy brained and they're becoming like BlueAnon, but there's all sorts of delusional and conspiratorial beliefs held by Republicans, and they believe all sorts of stuff was staged that clearly was not. Heck, a lot of them still don't even accept the results of the 2020 election, including our freaking president. So he's posting conspiracy slop on Truth Social all night from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. like a mad person. So all of this, it's not just one party. This is just one example, but all of this is really concerning to me and really destructive and harmful. And I don't know how we fix it. All I can do is try to do my part and not spread conspiracies myself and maybe debunk them. But meanwhile, the people who spread them and have the most elaborate tales to tell, whether it's Candace or it's BlueAnon people saying, you can tell it was staged because of this or blah, blah, blah. These people continue to dominate, and the incentive structure right now is rewarding them. And until that changes, these outcomes will not change either. And that's really concerning for the country. But I don't know. All I can do is my part to spread common sense, one podcast at a time, to however many people do decide to tune in to my take. And if that's you, thank you for that. I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate you. So with that, we'll leave it there for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for listening again. Do consider becoming a channel member. You'll unlock early access to episodes with no ads, no annoying YouTube mid-rolls. I'll disable those for the members, and no outside sponsors. And more than anything, it's really just a way to support my content and support common sense in this time of insanity that we are living in. So do that if you're able to. If not, no worries. I'm not going to go James Charles on ya. Regardless, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, all that. And we'll be back with more next week.